Hello, everyone. We are back here. Welcome to the Nomad CEO. I'm here with David Capablanca. And David is a super interesting personality. He's an architect and he turned into a financial trader talking about transformation. He's got a podcast. He's a founder. He's an author. He's making a ton of money and he's got a really impressive career. And so I thought it was an honor for me to have him on the show, and he accepted. And so welcome to the show, David. And I'm going to ask you the same question as I usually do with my guests, which is the one, if you had to point to one moment in your life back in your career, what was this pivotal moment that changed everything?
Okay, that's a heavy question. Okay, so the pivotal moment was since I went to school for 10 years, I did a bachelor's and I went to grad school, almost 10 years of school for architecture. I got in a lot of student debt. So, just I wish I was more financially literate. So the pivotal moment was when I realized that like I'm gonna be in debt forever and I need to do something about this. And then that's when, because I went to school for so long, I got in so much debt and I was financially illiterate. So, that's why I asked, because like that question, it could go so many different directions. But basically it was the student debt and the situation I faced when I finished all my schooling. I had to decide, okay, if I work 9 to 5, I'm going to be in this situation in debt forever until I'm retired. And do I want to be in debt forever and working 9 to 5 and just never getting out of it? Just like the rat race. Like before the podcast started, we were talking about traveling. I'm going to Argentina. You're in Bali. You were telling me tips on how to travel to all over Patagonia. If I didn't choose to do what I'm doing now, I would be working in the field 9 to 5, maybe a corporate job in the architecture field, and I would be not having these conversations. It would be so foreign for me to talk about like that, the freedom to travel. And so it would be so foreign. I'd be like, and I remember myself back then thinking, like, when I first started to learn about stock trading, which is what I do, I used to think, man, traveling, that sounds too crazy. Like, it was so far away. I didn't even know, like, I couldn't fathom it. Like, it seemed like so distant and so surreal, like to be able to travel. In fact, I remember when I first started to learn about trading, I was like, it's a good thing that I did study abroad in school, because I don't think I'll be ever able to travel again. At least I got it out the way. That was my thinking. So like the pivotal moment for me was making that decision of, okay, I'm not gonna go this route anymore. Um, I'm gonna dig myself out of debt and live life. I want to do what makes me happy and live life on my own terms.
Yeah, which is and in its essence, it's the idea of entrepreneurship, right? To be free, to have freedom, and not just financial freedom, but freedom of your time, what you're gonna do with it. And it's in the educational system. I think it's baked in to not teach the students about financial literacy, for example, and or there's not even it's like you have to sort of figure it out for yourself. And then because I ask you about that moment, because I think that for a lot of entrepreneurs or young guys out there want to who just want to get unstuck, they have to have that moment, right? So the realization that this is not what I want, so I'm not going to be that 9 to 5 rat, and I am going to do something different with my time and just going to take the risk, because there is a risk involved, right? Because I'm
Yeah,
talking specifically about risk, because you're in a risky business, like trading. It is, and it's inherently risky. And you were in a very, because there's also like other examples of that same situation where young guys figure out this is not what they want, and then they make a decision that is, well, that changes the course of their lives. But you were not in a career like in, I don't know, feminist dance theory, where nobody is going to
yeah,
pay you anytime. So you were in
yeah,
a actually in architecture is not a career that you can end up, I mean, you can make a lot of money with that profession, let's be honest, right? It's not like a lot of these careers that have no meaning at all are just complete garbage. They're just made up. So there's another doctor title on whatever I don't know. But that's different, right? Isn't it? I mean, your career has some potential.
Yeah, definitely does. Yeah, so I was actually just watching another podcast today about that. And it had me reflect because in that podcast they said the same commentary. Said, okay, there's some colleges, because colleges apparently they need federal funding, and they were contemplating about like speculating if the colleges didn't get federal funding, they would, like, if they can only get funding if they, for good majors, not for like gender studies, feminist studies, world dance. There's a world dance culture, world dancing cultures. I took an elective in that just to see what it was. It was told it doesn't do anything. Or like Chicano studies or whatever. It's just it's so architecture doesn't fall under that. However, like during that podcast, they were saying they mentioned interior design with all those, what I just mentioned. They together, they lumped them, and I was thinking, man, there are kind of too many interior designers. And what does interior design? Interior design is not, it's just making things pretty and stuff, so it's not really that necessary. The thing is, there's too many of them. So with architecture, the reason why, so I study, well, I'm in the stock market every day, and everything's based on supply and demand. So like with architecture, and I know this, and it's hard for architects to come to terms with it, but now as an outsider, I'm not in the field, I can think more objectively. Rather, you know what I mean? Rather than like be bought into the idea of architect, like, like this, it's like with that stance, like such a strong stance on it. But there are too many architects. The schools are pushing out. So there's so many. Oh my God. So like they graduate and they pump them out left and right. So there's too much supply. There's too many architects. And the architects, like, like for example, when I graduated with the master's degree, I still had to work 3 years to get a license, and I'm getting paid like $30 an hour. And then when I get the license and I have the master's, and then I can work my way up. I start with 60,000, then work my way up to like 60, 70,000 within a few years. I think now it's probably like 80, 90,000. But that's still not enough to justify taking out so much loans, giving 10 years of your life and 3 years of licensure and working for menial, very small amount of money. Because why do architects get paid so little when they finish grad school and they're not licensed? Why? It's because there's too many of them. You can replace them with any designer, any low-cost designer, or someone that went to a trade school and learned about like how to use a computer program, Revit or AutoCAD or whatever. Why do they need to hire a guy with a master's degree that can do the same job as a guy from a trade school? But the master's degree guy, he needs to get licensed. The trade school guy doesn't need to get licensed. But if I want to run a firm, I want like, so there's too many. So like whenever someone's job doesn't pay enough, you got to really think like, what is what's actually going on? And it's like the market determines the prices. It's just like with the stock market, determines the prices. When there's more demand, price goes up. When there's less demand,
Right.
price goes down. When there's more supply, price goes down. When there's less supply and more demand, price goes up. So it's like, why do architects don't get paid that well? It's because there's too many of them, and there's not enough need for them anymore. Now, then the crazy part is with AI coming in, I don't think AI is going to get rid of architects, but it's gonna take the place of a lot of lower tier art like designers and architects. So you're gonna really, it's an oversaturated market, So it's unfortunate because architecture is such a beautiful career, and I really enjoyed it. I loved the architecture. Just the way I was in debt and the amount of pay I was getting, it didn't match. It didn't work out. And so many people sign up for this, and this is the part I didn't mention early on and when we started. But another pivotal moment, that's why I got kind of stuck. Another pivotal moment was I had a brain operation while I was in grad school. I had a brain tumor, 5-centimeter acoustic neuroma brain tumor. I had to go under emergency operation, near-death experience. They gave me 2 weeks to live.
What?
Yeah,
And you didn't bring that, and you did not bring this
I
up
kind of skipped over it. Because the thing is, when you bring it up, that's another podcast in itself.
Yeah, I mean, I told you, I prefaced the whole thing, and I told you this is about like rock bottom moments and transformation and resilience, and you didn't bring
Yeah.
that up.
Yeah, because like, it's like which direction do I want to go in? But it's all part of the same thing. So like I'm mentioning it now, but yeah, I had to recover, and I think, in life, like especially I was like 30 something years old at the time. No, I was 25. So
Okay.
in life, like we don't really change unless we have to, especially like later in life, your 20s, maybe 20s you can still change, but 30s, 40s, it's like older people, they get stuck in their ways unless something traumatic happens and they're forced to change, like, so for me it was the brain operation completely, so it was pivotal. That was, I should have mentioned that. So like that completely,
Yeah,
because
maybe.
the doctor told me when I got out of the surgery, he said, I gave you 50 years more of life. So that shook me up. Even to this day, every day I think about it. I don't think it's exactly 50 years. I think I'm going to be fine. I'll live more than that. But if I take care of myself, right? But I think that just sparked that like wake up call, like, okay, because before that experience, I was kind of living like I was like I used to draw my drawings or architecture, and I'll just put all this unnecessary detail and get lost. And like your project that you're supposed to do, that you're assigned, I would go out on left field, you know, and just explore and be cool and just like have fun with it, and just not focused. It was good. It just was like, it wasn't like I would go off into like I was like, I didn't think about time. I thought about time differently. Like I'm gonna like time doesn't matter. So like that's why I got in so much debt. I was like, oh, I don't care. It'll figure itself out. Here, 200,000. Who cares? Architecture pays well. Just like going in my own way. Then when that wake up call happens, I'm gonna die, and like I survive. Now I have another life, and I have these years. Now I really feel that like that limit on the amount of like my life, like I'm not going to live forever. So how do I want to live? Do I want to live like in debt? So like I was in la la land before, I got woken up. Now I'm not in la la land anymore. Now it's like, now we have to really see, like I'm financially illiterate, I need to fix that. Why am I doing architecture if I'm just gonna design staircases and parking lots for someone else and work 9 to 5 and always be in debt? And I had to, when I saw the architects and that my first architecture job working in the firm, I saw, do I want to live like this guy? Like he's on salary, he doesn't have any vacation, like he's miserable. I can tell. Like that's my future in 10 years, 20 years. So like I gotta, like, how come I didn't realize this before? Like all of a sudden now, like I realized it. I don't understand, So it was that pivotal moment of the brain operation, near death experience. Woke me up, shook me to my core, like some sense into me. So
Yeah, I mean, wow. You know what? This is weird because I've had this before this moment, not with you, with another guest on my podcast who also, I asked him a similar, I mean, I told him about the purpose of the podcast, and this is about rock bottom moments and how we can move on and transcend and rebuild ourselves and the lessons that come from it and all of that. And he also completely did not mention this traumatic event he had with a car accident or something, like really almost died. And then he came up with, oh, I think when I remember one moment when all my friends left from a party, and I said, what? What, you didn't say that before? And so it was similar in a way, that because the point you made, you brought up a very important point, which is that um, we get these wake up calls in life, right? So, and I want to make special emphasis on these calls, these wake up calls, because first question I have, is it really necessary to go through such an experience, or can we learn from others, right? So if the assumption is yes, we can, then this is the mission of the podcast, because I want to inspire other guys who maybe might be in a difficult situation or have big goals and don't know how to get there. And so when they listen to other people's stories that are actually inspiring because they push through, then that might help, right? So because you see, okay, this guy is similar to me, and he's also an architect, and if he can, maybe I can too, right? So, but then your personal situation with such a brutal moment where you almost die, like this changes obviously everything. You start asking different questions, which you otherwise wouldn't have asked yourself, right? So, and this is something I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs, but like everyone on this earth has. I think this is a fear we all have, which is basically sleep wandering into a one direction and not knowing that or climbing the wrong ladder, right? And then realizing after, when it's already late and when you're old, that you shouldn't have climbed that ladder in the first place, right?
Yeah.
And that's shocking, right? Because when you're old and it's too late, I mean, you could argue it's never too late to change your your life. You can always make better decisions and then change something new. It's just time is just so precious, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, so I got that way. Like, for example, we have like the Roger Bannister is the guy that broke the 4 minute mile. So like, you have someone that paves the way, and then other people realize that it's possible. And because after he broke the 4 minute mile, I don't know if you know the story. He's the guy that broke the 4 minute mile, and then like months later, and it took like so like in history, no one ever broke the 4 minute mile. Then a few months later, people started breaking it all the time. So it's like when one person, so you can learn from others' experiences and get inspired by them to not be go down the wrong path, or it's like to have that wake up call. But unfortunately, for the majority, I think people have to experience. It's like with stock trading. I can tell people, and I have students that I mentor, and like I try to instill in them the lessons that I learned. But unfortunately, the reality is they got to learn it for themselves. They can hear
Yeah.
me tell it all day long till I'm blue in the face. And maybe 1 out of 10 people, 2 out of 10 will take heed to it. But the other 8, they got to touch the stove first, apparently, and then they learn. Then it's like it kicks in. Unfortunately, I think this is like a human flaw. Because like when I was younger, I'm sure I just wasn't paying attention. I'm pretty sure someone mentioned financial literacy. Someone mentioned. I remember when I went to UCLA for graduate school for architecture. A very good school. And I remember on the tour of the school, like in the, how do you call it, orientation, one kid was mentioning about like complaining about the student loans, and he still signed up. He still was a classmate of mine. But I was like, I remember like listening to it, and I didn't even think about it. I was like, who cares? I'm in the school. Who cares? Where do I sign? Um, like now I would have paid attention and read the fine print and be like, okay, what is the interest? What is this? Is this worth the cost benefit analysis, the risk reward? I would look at it differently but like even back then, people brought it up around me. I just wasn't paying attention. So like, how do we get people to pay attention and to listen to the good advice? I don't know. Sometimes I think people just got to learn the hard way, I guess, so for the most part, but, you can try, like that's why like I like doing podcasts and getting my story out and stuff, because maybe one person it works, so,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's just, it's tough.
it is. And I think for the most part it is as it should be, because life is to be experienced, not to. I mean, we all have nuanced. I mean, we might have different ideas and perspective, and we need the feedback, the emotional feedback, that it doesn't, if it doesn't leave an emotional impact in your brain, it's most like you're not gonna remember. It's
Yeah.
not gonna stick around, which is why people don't listen or don't act. I mean, they might listen, but not that they don't act, because they don't have that sting that reminds them of what happens if they keep doing what they're doing, or whatever it is they need to stop or start doing. And so yeah, but since you already brought up the stock trading, is something that I'm actually interested in,
Mm.
because, well, it's not exactly stock trading, but crypto. Back then, when I first lost my company, my nanotech company, that during the pandemic, when I crashed and burned and everything was gone, crypto actually saved my ass. So I had a few investments in crypto that I had forgotten, and that sort of allowed me to not completely end up on the street. Let's call it like that. But yeah, so in terms of trading, let's start with let's continue the rock bottoms
Sure.
theme. what were your three biggest fails, fuck ups
Okay.
in that process?
So I've had some big losses as an established trader. And those are terrible. I lost one trade 100,000. I lost 100,000 twice. I lost 150,000 once. I lost 50,000, 60,000, multiple 30,000, 20,000. It's a lot. But the ones that were the most pivotal ones that were the ones in the beginning. With that $10,000 one in the beginning, the $11,000 one, the $19,000 one. When yeah, if it would have been just a little bit more, I could have been wiped out completely. Because it's like a company. When you're starting a company, those initial first moves are so important and critical. You can get wiped out as a company. You just go bankrupt immediately, or like you get right away before you even get started. So yeah, so I think the two biggest ones, yeah, were in the beginning. 2020 were both 2020 and 21. 2020 when I grew a $5,000 account to 16,000, and then I lost 11,000, brought me back to five. So that was, I mean, that $11,000 loss is more significant to me than like the $150,000 loss. Because I already had a lot of money when I lost 150,000. So, and then also the following year, and I recovered, and then the following year, I lost 19,000 when I had, you know what I mean? After like, think about it. So like my net worth was like negative six figures, let's say multiple six figures negative because of student debt. And then I somehow trade and make my first 100,000. And then I'm losing 19,000. That's like 20% of my negative net worth. So it's like I'm feeling it. You know what I mean? And because like I can't spend any of this money. I gotta like trade and live like a minimal lifestyle because I'm just starting out like a fresh company. And like those initial first year, whatever, first year or two is so important to survive, just survival. And so those two were, yeah, they could have made or break me, so made or broke me, so yeah. Then later on, I mean, it hurts too, man. $100,000, it hurts so much. Like, feels like, yeah, like Mike Tyson in his prime, just, beating you up.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost 150 grand on one stock. It was a total scam. It could have been worse. The crazy part is I cut the trade. So the trade was a total scam. It went up from like a couple dollars to $22 in one day, and that's when I lost 150 grand. However, when I closed the trade out and I took the loss, the stock went from 22 to 250 in like an hour.
What?
So I could have gone bankrupt. I could that could have bankrupted me.
So
You know what I mean? Because the accounts will go
so you could
negative.
if you had not pulled out in that
Yeah.
precise moment, then you
Yeah,
would
it would have
have
been like a
been
$10 million
completely.
loss or something. Yeah. Would have been crazy. So instead of 100, 150. So as bad as that was, think about that. I close out the trade. I'm like, man, this sucks. And I'm feeling terrible. And then I go for a kind of a walk, like a really it almost felt like I was like drunk or something. It was so like I was all over the place because like mentally I was just like shook. It's like I've just been through so much. And then I go look at my computer. I'm like, oh my god, it said 250s. And I was thinking, actually, my under $50,000 is not that bad. Actually, that's actually a bargain compared to And I've heard horror stories of a lot of traders that lost their careers with that. So like yeah, with short selling, which is what I do, that's that's the fear. The ultimate fear is like when a stock goes to infinity, basically. They call it like, because with short selling, if I want the stock to go down, and if it goes up, it can go up infinitely. Down, it goes to zero, but up, it goes infinite because numbers can go infinite, billion, so yeah, your accounts can go negative. So a lot of people's accounts went negative. They got to declare bankruptcy. Their reputation gets ruined. So like part of trading, like as a established trader, you got to have like a really, it's something that doesn't get talked about. You got to have a good reputation, you know? So like when the brokers and other people, you know, they want to, it's like you have it's like a business, you want a good name, you know? So an entrepreneur, you don't want to owe people money and stuff, you know, and like not known as someone that just owes someone money and you haven't paid them, you know, that's not good. So like, yeah, so like, because even if you declare bankruptcy, your name is ruined still. Like that means you're just not paying, like you're just not going to pay the guy. So yeah, fortunately,
Yeah.
I got away with that. But I think the more important one to survive is that first year where I was making money and I didn't do I cut those trades properly. You know, that $19,000 loss sucked, but like that's the max I was willing to take. And that $11,000 one, that one sucked, but that brought me back to how I started. I started with 5,000 and it brought me back to five. Like, you know, so I was able to biggest trade. It was a Chinese stock, another Chinese, kind of Chinese related, is 75,000, you know, on one trade.
Nice.
But yeah, this is,
Wow.
that's, you know, so I've had a lot of $20,000, $30,000 trades, just the one, you know, the way I trade. So like,
And they add up, of course.
yeah, they add up a lot, of course. But eventually it's gonna, like, I know the big days will come, the 100,000, 200,000. That's all come in due time. The $1 million trade, that'll come in due time. I always remind myself that this is I was doing another career before this, just before the pandemic. You know, so I'm still kind of new. You know, it's like I haven't been doing this since I'm 18 years old, or
I
there's
was
one
just
trader
about to
since
say,
he's
yeah, it's
12.
right.
You know,
But that's what I thought when you brought up the date 2020 isn't that long ago. So
yeah,
you're still in
yeah.
the
Yeah,
growing
it takes time. So
phase.
I started in 2015 to learn because this stuff is very hard to learn, you know. So it took me like 3, 4 years just to learn it. And then I had the opportunity in 2020. The markets went crazy. And then ever since then, I've grown every day, you know. So I like to think of it like I did 20 years of work in like 3, 4 years. And then now I feel like I'm caught up now. Now I'm just like I'm just growing from here. But for a long time I felt like I was playing catch up, like I'm learning for 3, 4 years. I have nothing to show for it. And I left a whole 10 years, you know, like I was like, for example, I was like 37 years old and like had no, still kind of broke, you know? So now I feel like now it's like when I'm really getting started, you know? So
Cool. Yeah. And now experience starts to compound and giving you dividends,
yes.
right? So
Yeah,
okay. So
exactly.
and for those out there who are also interested in this career, let's call it, because you said it's difficult. It's actually complex to
Very, very
learn, right?
complex.
It
Yeah.
took you 3 or 4 years. So if you had limited time, how would you take that complex information or concept of trading and then break it down into simpler steps that you could learn by yourself? Is there a way you could
Yeah.
accelerate the learning
Yes,
phase for the
of
yeah? How
course.
would you do
So
that?
so first, the 3 or 4 years that I spent studying, I made money after that, but like I still didn't know like what I know now. So you're always learning. You can still make money and not know everything, you know, with trading. You don't have to know everything to make money. However, now it's a lot easier for me to make money. And I'm constantly learning. But if I were to start, so I created Friendly Bear Universities, is what I have, and I designed it in a way so like if I were to go back in time to 2015, I would just give myself that. So because when I was learning, I was all over the place. I was like I'm a total autodidact. I mean, I was self-taught. I read every book, every audiobook, everything I could get my hands on, and it was a lot of stuff. It was, you know, I wish I would have been better guided, but yeah, I would. So the first thing you got to do is you got to find a mentor that you trust, you relate to, you share the values with, and you just got to listen to the mentor, and that's like with everything, you know. So whatever you decide to do, you got to do that. If you do the route that I did, I, I am on a, I say anomaly because I rented out an office space, which is the same one I have here, and I just slept in it and studied 20 hours a day. I was like a mad scientist, but like most people can't do that. So I'm a extreme situation, but But yeah, you gotta get a mentor, and you gotta like it's so important to trust the mentor and to see, like, for example, for me, I've been verified many times by like outlets like Business Insider. They audited me. They saw my all my records. You know, I wrote a book. The publisher, they verify me. So, so like I'm a verified trader. So like you can trust what I say when it comes to trading. Like when I wrote a book, everything in that book is applicable and it works. It works. It's proven methods. It works. So like the problem is when people find the wrong mentor that's not verified, and it's like there's a lot of this on YouTube, a lot of fake people that they just don't know what they're talking about, but they say it with confidence, or they rented a Lamborghini and they like, they're just like people believe them. That's a waste of time. So that's the only thing. But like if you find the right mentor and you listen to what they say and the outline they give you, like for example, I can speak of mine. My mentorship is like I designed it. I designed it like the way they train traders on Wall Street, which is when a trader gets trained on Wall Street at a firm, they're given like a 1.5 years to 2 years to make money, to become profitable. They give them a direct outline. They have like material they got to study. They got to show up and shadow the traders, and they got 2 years, and after 2 years, I guess they get fired. But most of them don't even last that long. If it's not meant for them, it's not meant for them. Now, however, so with people that want to learn trading, you don't got to go that hardcore, because you can still make money on the side. You don't have to go hardcore and make it like you be the gladiator of trading. So you follow a mentorship program the mentor helps you with on your goals. Like if you want to trade for passive income, you want to make better investment decisions, you want to day trade on the side, a certain few hours a week. What are your goals? Are your goals to, like, for me, it was I got to get out of my debt and I got to create freedom for myself, because I'm not going to live here forever, and I want to change my career entirely. So like I went hardcore. But like if you have for example, you have like an engineering degree, a job, you're doing very well, you want to trade on the side, you want to manage your investments, because most people can manage their investments better than like their K or whatever it is, that they have. They can probably do a better decision than those guys, the money managers, because they're being so safe with everybody's money, those retirement funds and stuff. Like if you are educated and you know better than them, like you could probably do better than them, so there's a lot of investments out there. So it's like, and then to day trade, you can learn to trade like pretty decently with a few hours of you instead of watching Netflix every day, you study trading a little bit, so.
Okay. If you had to point out one book, only one book, which one would you recommend?
I recommend my book, A Short Selling Master. So in there,
Smart move.
yeah, so I mean, I wrote it 256 pages. It's on Amazon. So I wrote that thing because it shows you like what a retail trader. So I'm a retail trader and I switch careers. And for people that want to do this similar like me, like you have, like can relate, which is retail traders. Retail traders are people with careers. Maybe they want to leave their career. Maybe they want a supplemental income. Maybe they want to understand what it's like to be a retail trader and like how I did it, the methods that I did it with, like the kind of, you got to see the kind of work ethic I had, the work ethic it takes, the sacrifices. You don't got to go as hard as I did, but you got to see, okay, I'm going to have to put some effort here. And now the degree of effort, you just got to understand what kind of degree of effort you need to achieve whatever goals you want. So you got to understand that. So with my book, you get that. I gave a lot of strategies, both long and short, to go long and to short sell, and like explaining stocks in like very complex concepts, but in layman's terms. Because like I learned everything from not knowing anything. I was illiterate, financially illiterate. So I was able to learn all these complex, market stuff with and like I break it down like because I keep it simple, stupid. The KISS thing. So I keep all my concepts are pretty simple. I'm not a licensed guy. I didn't study in Wharton. I didn't work in Wall Street at Goldman Sachs. Nothing. I just learned this, and it's in the book. So the book, I'm really proud of it. So because there's books that
Okay,
I've read, but they interview like professionals, people that have been doing this for a long time, so things go over people's heads. So I'd make it really simple to understand.
great. So step one, get a mentor. Step two, read David's book. And step three, what would be the minimum budget I need to get started, like to start investing
Okay, so for investing, that's
or
different,
trading?
So for trading, yeah,
I was
okay,
saying trading, yeah.
trading. So for trading, as you're learning, and you should start with a $2,000 account because you're gonna lose money at first. $2,000
Yeah.
account. The reason why it's 2,000 because it's a margin account. So a margin account allows you to day trade. And the thing is, you're limited in the amount of trades you can do. It's 3 trades per 5 days. They call it pattern day trade rule. By the way, they're getting rid of that soon in 2026. So either way, you wanna limit the amount of trades you can do in the beginning and trade small because that's the one thing that kept me alive when I was starting from 2015 to 2020. I didn't have any money. So when I had a $2,000 account at the time and I was working tutoring jobs, I was tutoring kids, and that's how I funded that account, $2,000. And even so, think about it. I was in debt, student debt. I was broke as hell, and that $2,000 in that account felt like the world to me. But however, if let's say I lost the 2,000, I would have felt it like, oh my God, I lost everything. But in reality, like that's not that bad because I'm already in debt so much. So it's just $2,000. So um, that's why I survived because I did lose some money in the beginning, maybe like $500 here, and I felt like, oh my God, I lost a portion of my account. Oh my God, it's like the world's gonna end. But in actuality, that's better than imagine if I had a $30,000 account and I lose
Yeah.
$10,000. So a $2,000 account, I would say until you have, I would say a solid 6 months to a year of trading consistent experience, whatever that means for you, of practicing and doing the right proper practice and studying the right stuff. And then after that, you can decide what direction you want to go to. Maybe you want to put 10,000 in there and do that for a few months and then raise it to 25, 30, etc. But first, it's so important to start with a small amount of money. So important. If not, you
Okay.
take one hit, you're screwed. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we've got the first step, and the third one is get a $2,000 account and stay there for at least how much? 6 months, you said, or 2 months, or
I would say 6 months, but like practicing consistently, I would say like 2 to 3 times a week, actually making small trades to practice.
yeah.
And then in between that, you're studying. You're studying.
Yeah.
Like you're studying,
Okay.
watching videos, just reading all this stuff.
What are the essential apps we need to
The
do this
essential
properly?
apps.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Let's see. Someone in my university, Friendly Brain University, they have like a Discord. There's a Discord. Like that's basically like a chat room with bots
Mhm.
and stuff. You need
But that's
that.
not,
You
not
need the charting.
that's
I
not.
would say. What's that?
Mhm. Sorry for interrupting. I was saying that I wanted to interject that Discord is not necessarily a trading app. It's just a community app, right?
Yeah. So if you, like in my community, it's a good community.
Okay.
So you got to watch out. There's some bad communities out there. So if you're in a good community, that's why I can only recommend mine. But like, there's a lot of bad ones. But you need the Discord because Discord, like I rely on it. I rely on it. Like I see what my guys are saying. I have like analysts. Anyways, so that's one. That's optional. But the main one for charting, I like Thinkorswim from Schwab. It's free. You put $5 in it just so they don't close your account because if they see it empty for like a year or two, they might close it. So just put $5 in there and just use it for charts. That's one app. That's basically it. That's the apps on the phone. Now on the computer, it's a different story. I have like all this stuff, advanced scanners and stuff that you guys can see. But yeah, I would say charting is Thinkorswim. Now, the $2,000 account, I would use Interactive Brokers, and TWS is another app. Yeah, you can do that. The $2,000 account with Interactive Brokers, and you use Thinkorswim for charts.
All right. I have to ask this last question because I think, well, I'm guessing is having a big impact on trading as well, which is AI, right? So, because usually what happens is we learn things, and that if we don't learn the basics, it's really hard for us to do things properly, professionally. So even every professional has to go through that process and learning the basics and know how to break the do follow the rules in order to be able to break them later on. And now AI comes in, which is basically the question I have here is how much of an impact do you feel in your craft? And also, what can be automated and what cannot in that particular field?
Yeah, so very good question. So recently, I still like to go to. There's a school here in Los Angeles. It's called SciArc, Southern California Institute of Architecture, and they give a lot of lectures there. They're open to the public, and I like to go to them. And there's one architect that came there, and he was giving a lecture. Well-known architect, he's a super famous guy. And he was saying, people are scared of AI, but I'm excited about it. Like, it's made my work easier. I can do this easier. I can do that easier. It makes my work, but it's gonna make a lot of architects obsolete or whatever. But like for him, he loves it, and that's the way he says people should view it. And I was like, wow, that's such a unique view, because people are saying AI is going to take over trading. You got the robot traders, the algorithms, it's going to go crazy, and you don't need traders anymore. And I always found that kind of weird. I was like, but the market's based off of fear and greed, and there's the human players behind it, and there's no supercomputer better than the human brain. You can talk to all these quants and stuff. They tell you that. That's how what I just mentioned. Someone told me that. Someone that knows more about that than me. But anyway, so with trading, it's the same thing as the architect said. It's AI has made my life easier. So like, I don't have to go through SEC filings, for example. I know how to go through them, but like it's so confusing, and like the way the SEC filings are designed, the wording, everything is all hidden agendas by lawyers that write those things all up. So now I can go through it in like one minute. I know what to search for. So you do got to have the skill to like know what to look for. And now AI lets me go through it so fast. AI helps me come up with ideas. It's like my assistant. I'm using the AI to like find information that I can apply towards my trading, so it's like I'm the conductor of the symphony, you know what I mean? So like, that's the way it excites me, like what, like I can, so AI, I saw a little commercial on YouTube of Tony Robbins said, even Tony Robbins said it, and I agree with him. He said, oh, AI is not going to replace you. You're going to get replaced by someone who knows how to use the AI.
Which is true, yeah. I totally agree.
So I agree. So I'm excited for it because I'm open to it, and I'm learning. That's the thing about trading. You always have to like adapt. So like I have to, when you learn something new, it's like that initial, it's like pulling teeth, but then you get used to it. Then, you just got to get over that phase and, and get used to it. But I'm excited for AI. So I think it's a massive tool. Most people are not going to use it correctly. They're going to rely on it too much. You can't rely on it for everything. Like I can't rely on the AI to tell me exactly, because sometimes it's wrong, and I have to know what to ask it. If I ask it the wrong way, it'll give me something wrong. And so, for example, and then some people are going to relate. They're going to have like AI. People are, they're lazy for the most part. They don't want to trade. They want the AI to trade for them. I think that's going to be a disaster, especially if you don't know how to trade already and you're not already a good trader. How can you have the AI do the work for you? It's just not that easy. You can't just buy an AI robot and put it in and make money. It doesn't make any sense. So the human behind it, it's like is going to be the important factor. I'm excited for it, So yeah, that's the way I view AI, man.
So I have to answer a follow-up question since I'm curious. What was your best, or what is your most potent or best prompt so far with AI doing trading? Because it comes down.
Very good.
Yeah, you came with a good. You're right about how you think. Right? You're the guy director of the symphony, and so you basically, because it's really just a tool, and bad answers only usually arise from lack of context. So if you give it enough context and specificity matters, and then if you give it the framework, then you can actually bring like really cool prompts to life, I guess. And so, what was your best prompt so far?
Yeah.
What are you using?
So one I give for every stock is like, does this company have Chinese ties? And the reason why is because all my big losses
Okay,
are from
good.
Chinese stocks. So that's one. But then, like, like for example, today there was one. So does this company have any dilution, upcoming dilution? Does this company have any events coming up? And then I start asking question, what kind of events? The dilution, if I'm going into dilution, what kind of dilution? Does it have warrants? Does it have convertibles? Or what prices are the convertibles at? Can they exercise the prices lower than the price of the current price? What is the floor price? Then I ask a definition is like, what does it's like, what is a convertible that can be exercised? Like, I just ask it whatever I need to ask it. And I just go down the rabbit hole, going to lockups and like, why does it have a 269-day lockup as opposed to 360-day lockup? Who's the underwriter? What's the underwriter's history with this? Can you see this underwriter, the last 10 stocks that went on the market that they IPO'd? Why did they have lockups like this? How did it behave? And then I'll just go back and forth. It's like, where are they located? Do they have Chinese ties? It's like my assistant. Yeah. What is the SEC rule? Like, I don't know. I'll just go crazy with it, So
It's also
yeah.
having a conversation with a digital. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
like a
way we.
person, but it's a digital person.
Yes, that has the information at its fingertips all the time, and you can. But yeah, you gotta double check because it does make mistakes. It can lead you to erroneous questions, answers, and stuff like that. But yeah, it's super helpful. I agree with. I use it the same way for content for my newsletters. When I create content newsletters, and I do some research on specific. For example, for us, this conversation is going to be converted into a newsletter, and I might ask the AI to come up with some remarkable or interesting facts, surprising facts about that particular topic that are not necessarily related directly to you, but just to give the readers a more context. And they have, because trading is an interesting topic, and I always do this. So this is how I basically ask these questions, often open questions, up sometimes specific. Yeah, I agree. It excites me, and this is ChatGPT 5. I don't even know. I don't even want to know how these newer models are gonna work and everything, but it's gonna be amazing. Hopefully, I'm not
Yeah,
replaced.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, David, this was a very, very cool conversation. Before we end the call, the podcast, would you like to give a shout out?
Yeah. Sure, you can find me at an Instagram, reverse long, and then what else? My book, Short Selling Masters, on Amazon for pre-order. Yeah, I have the friendlybearuniversity.com. That one's good too if you're interested in learning. Yeah, that's about it.
Cool. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, and for all the insights we've got. And I hope some listeners out there just got inspired and wanna become day traders now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Roman.
Thank you. Have a good
Thanks.
one. Bye
You
bye.
too.
All the
Bye.
best.